So today is a pretty huge day for Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 news. We finally have the Steam page for the next entry in the series, which not only confirms that the game is still coming this year, which means it's either this month or next month, it's a 50-50 chance at this point, but it also brings with it a bunch of new information. We got some new screenshots, we got a new description of the chapter, all of which contains a bunch of things that we can analyze and theorize over, so let's get straight into it. So first of all, let's look at the new images we got. We got a bunch of new screenshots for Chapter 3, which, first of all, they all look very dark and moody, which is fantastic. The developers did say that Chapter 3 was going to be the scariest and darkest one yet, and I think both metaphorically and physically, these images support that, which is fantastic. But there's also a bunch of little things that we can start to theorize over with these screenshots. Now, this first one is a sort of nondescript room. We know that Chapter 3 is going to take place mostly in the Playcare, which is an orphanage of sorts. But this room, I'm not entirely sure what it's supposed to be. The official description says corridor, but there's some weird little things about this one which make it even creepier if you start to look into it. So first of all, we see this beam of wood and we see this word. Now this word could be preview, it could also be previo, which is Spanish for previous, which I actually think I have a potential explanation for that. But either way, right next to that, we can see this poppy wallpaper. Now, some of it looks like poppies, which would make sense. This is Poppy Playtime after all. And then some of it looks like a gas mask, which I don't know if that is just a cheeky reference or if this could be Bron's face, either way. But it does look like the gas mask, which is going to be a big part of Chapter 3. We know now that that is going to be a part of the mechanics because the description states that as well. But in this room, the thing that is most interesting to me is the fact that we see this boogiebot hanging from the ceiling with this red thread. Now this is actually a callback to Chapter 1. We saw this exact same thing right outside of Poppy's room. And very interestingly, very coincidentally, I would like to add, I did a video yesterday talking about how Poppy is the big bad of the series. Now, this is a theory I've had all the way back from Chapter 1, and I made a video yesterday. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But I made a video yesterday talking about the idea that we've all forgotten about Poppy, and Poppy is a major player in this series. And what makes this really, really interesting is if you look very, very closely, you can see a Poppy doll down here on the floor. Well, I am fairly sure that that is a Poppy doll. Now, what is really interesting about that is that we actually haven't seen any other Poppy dolls in this factory apart from the main one, the one that we talked to in Chapter 2, the one that we released in Chapter 1. And why I find that particularly interesting is Poppy was supposedly one of Playtime Co.'s most successful dolls, which the idea that we've seen multiple of pretty much every other doll in this factory, but we haven't seen any other Poppies is either just a coincidence or it is something more interesting. And again, go watch my video from yesterday, but I've talked about the idea that there is an evil Poppy in this factory. Whether that is the same one from Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 or a completely different one, I do think there is definitely an evil Poppy, and I think this is a callback to that, which could explain why the word here is previo, which could mean previous. I don't know, maybe that's just a coincidence, but it might be saying that we need to look back to Chapter 1. Maybe this is a reminder that we're looking in the wrong places for certain things. Now, we also see a Bron has been kind of pinned to the wall here, which again, I did talk about a long time ago now that I think we're going to see some living Bron, at least one in Chapter 3. It would make sense. The orphanage being an area for younger children, the idea that younger children like dinosaurs. I do think this is the chapter that they could bring back a living Bron. And they did say that this chapter is going to have multiple enemies. And of course, we will talk about that main enemy, don't you worry. But yeah, they did say that there's going to be multiple enemies in this chapter. So there's a good chance we could see at least a living Bron in this one. But something that I don't think anyone has talked about yet, which is really odd and really interesting to me, is the idea that you can see this lamp in the bottom left, and then you can see this reflection here. Now, we don't see this lighting reflection effect on any of the other screenshots. It's just in this one. It does make me wonder why we can see this reflection here, though. It almost makes it look like we're looking through a piece of glass or maybe a camera or possibly a one-way mirror. In fact, if you look at this word here, you can see that it is actually flipped or mirrored. So I do think that there's a chance that we are looking for a one-way mirror here, which would be very, very creepy. The idea that, again, the researchers, the staff were spying on these children, these orphans. I wouldn't put it past Playtime Co. at this point, but it is an interesting idea. And I'm wondering why we see this reflection here like this. Now, this next image is very interesting considering the fact that it was taken down from Steam, apparently, according to Sheep Rampage, but it's still up in the official Discord right now. Now, this one is a corridor, obviously, and it's got all of these children's lockers here that are in these fun Playtime Co. shapes. Now, I actually do think there's a potential idea that we will be using these lockers to hide in. There's a lot of horror games do this, hide from the enemies that are walking past. But also something to note in this one is that we see a bunch of these children's backpacks. Now you can actually see these in other screenshots too. They are littered all around this area. So I'm wondering now if this is going to be one of the collectibles for this chapter. We know in chapter 1 we had the tapes, we know in chapter 2 we had the tapes, and then we also had these collectibles we could find. Well, I'm wondering if in chapter 3 we're going to be rummaging through these, looking for notes, looking for clues, maybe looking for children's notepads or something like that, maybe looking for clues as to what was going on down here. But also something really, really interesting about these screenshots, if you look at them together, is we can see multiple small Huggies. Now, again, these things are hidden all over the game, all over every single chapter. We've seen these everywhere. However, looking at these two, these ones do look like they were at one point alive. And now I did make a theory all the way back in chapter 1, one of my favorite theories to this day. I talked about the idea that there is a cursed Huggy, and I did talk about the idea that these small Huggies were going to come to life at 1.2. Now we have already seen this. We've seen the medium-sized Huggies in chapter 2, and we've also seen these small Huggies in Project Playtime 2, but we've never actually faced off against these small Huggies in the main game, and I do think that this is a perfect opportunity for that. We've seen a bunch of these small ones. We have seen another one that was definitely alive, because if you look at this one, you can see a blood splatter. So I do think this is another big hint that we're going to see some mini Huggies, and we're going to have to fight against them, maybe run away from them. Either way, I do think we're going to see some alive mini Huggies in chapter 3. Now, again, this also could be a cheeky reference to the idea, this big theory that we've all had since chapter 2, that the big bad Huggy from chapter 1 is going to come back. And I still stand by that theory. I still think we're going to see the original big Huggy from chapter 1 come back in some sort of damaged form. I think that would be really awesome. That could be like, again, kind of like the Springtrap from FNAF, where it always comes back, that kind of thing, maybe. If you look really closely at the left as well, you can see what looks like bunting. It looks like this is maybe a birthday room or some sort of celebration was going on at the time of the downfall of the factory, which again, kind of creepy children's birthday party vibes going on. We'll have to wait and see what exactly that room is. But also, if you look at this screenshot, you might say, well, this kind of looks like a school corridor, which is very interesting because if you look at the next image, you can see that this is actually a classroom. And if you look at the image description on Discord, it is described as being a classroom, which would make total sense. These children were under the care of Playtime Co., which would make sense that they would want to at least educate them, but it also could have been a way for Playtime Co. to start indoctrinating them. So that's something to consider. But this room also contains a bunch of things that are interesting. We see the Huggy on the table here. This one is decapitated. Again, this one looks, to me anyway, the eyes look like this one was alive. Maybe it's just a trick. But we see another one on the bottom left. We also see potentially a third one right here. So again, I think this is a huge clue that we are going to see an army of mini Huggies, as I said, in chapter 3. Now, if you look on the left of this image, you can see a very creepy photograph. You see this photograph of this child, which is something that we saw in the latest trailer for chapter 3. But now I'm actually looking at it, it's staring right into our souls, which is cool. But I actually think this is another huge hint. We haven't really considered the idea that this factory could be haunted. This is something that's actually happened in a lot of horror games. It happened in Five Nights at Freddy's. It happened in Little Nightmares too. That was something else. We saw ghosts in that one. The idea that all of these children died here, I don't think anyone's really been talking about the fact that potentially their souls could remain. Now, of course, we know people could still be in doll bodies, but what about the ones that died? There's a good chance that we might see more of a haunting aspect to the series going forward, and I'm very excited to see what they could do with that as well. This could go into real creepypasta territory with not only is it a toy factory full of living killer dolls, but it's also haunted as well. Speaking of looking directly into our soul, we see yet another Bron staring directly at us. Now, of course, this is a couch. It's a very cool little design, having Bron be part of the sofa, but it also, I think, could be another potential little cheeky clue that we're gonna see a Bron. We've seen so many Brons in the lead up to this chapter. We saw Thomas, the living Bron. We see all of these other Brons. I did make this theory a long time ago, and I would love to be proven correct on this one, because I do think that Bron could be scary. We know he is the scariest dinosaur, and I really want to see how Mob do it. How do Mob make Bron, this silly, goofy looking character, scary? I think they can do it. I think they can. I just want to see how they do it. We also have this, which I don't know what this is supposed to be, whether it's supposed to be writing or whether it's supposed to be dripping, but it spells out POC or FOC. Honestly, I'm far too tired right now to try and figure out what this is supposed to mean. I'm sure there are people in the Discord already solving this one, but for me, I have honestly no clue, but there you go, there's a word there. But something that I do want to talk about is look at this window over here. You can see this window with very obviously fake trees in the background and very fake lighting. Now, we found this out in chapter 2. The entire secret area where all the orphans are being kept is all underground, and somebody had the idea that they should put in lights behind the windows to make it feel like it's above ground. Now, if you think about it, this could be very, very important to the story of this game, because being underground is not good for your mental health. Not seeing the sun is very bad for you. Trust me, as somebody who is a night owl, I can tell you not seeing the sun is very bad for your mental health. So the idea that both the staff and these orphans were being held down in an underground place, probably not getting enough sunlight, could feed into the idea that people down here were going crazy. And we did see that some of the children are definitely requiring counseling, which makes sense. This place is full of horror, but it also might be hinting that this horror started to happen way before the downfall of the factory. People were starting to really suffer down here way before they were being put into toys, which again, all just adds to the creepy factor of this. But if you actually look at these trees and you look at these lighting, they look so fake and so cheap. And that's really interesting to me, because we know that Playtime Co. for the most part was a very successful company. We know that they had all of this money to do all of these experiments, to make all of these toys. But when it actually comes to looking after their staff and looking after the orphans, they didn't want to spend the money. It's like they didn't care, which again, I'm really not surprised by. But wait, there's more. If you look up here, we can see a PA system, which would make sense in a school. But I'm wondering if Mob are going to use that in part of the horror too. Hearing creepy things come over the PA system could be part of chapter 3. And I'm really excited to see if they do anything with that, or if that's just here to make it look more realistic. We see another backpack in the corner, which is just leading into that idea that we are going to be looking for these backpacks to look for clues. But then talking of Playtime Co. not really caring about people, if we look at this room, which is clearly a bedroom, it's called the dorm, we can see that this place is completely falling apart. Now, these holes in the floor here are surrounded by these scratches, and we do now know that the chapter 3 antagonist, or the main one anyway, is going to be some sort of cat-like creature. Now, I don't actually think the antagonist is going to be an actual cat. I think it's going to be similar to Mommy Longlegs. If you think about Mommy Longlegs in chapter 2, she was kind of like a spider, but she wasn't really a spider, and I think that's what's going to be happening in chapter 3. I think this new one is going to be cat-like, but not actually a cat. Although if you think about the cat theme, and the idea that it has this giant smile and also the gas, which could potentially induce hallucinations, there is kind of a Cheshire Cat, Alice in Wonderland vibe going on. I could probably do a whole video about that. But there are all of these scratch marks around this giant hole in the floor, and you can actually see 2 giant holes. Now, if you look down there is a very deep drop, which already is kind of dangerous, and we have seen that this factory seems to be built on really shaky foundations. There were huge parts in chapter 2 that had giant holes in the floor, which was again really dangerous to build a factory on top of. But the idea that these children were sleeping in such a dangerous area is just honestly not surprising at this point with Playtime Co., but it is very interesting. Now, there isn't really much else to see in this image. There is this kind of shadowy thing up here, which kind of looks like a bat or a face. It kind of looks like Grogu from The Mandalorian, but it could be just a chandelier sort of thing. But it does look like there's something up there. I have messed with the brightness a little bit, but it doesn't really seem to show anything. It looks like a fan here and then this weird shape. It could be something watching us. It could just be, you know, the low quality of the image. But yeah, there's not really much else. There's these giant blocks, which seemed far too big for somebody to play with, but part of the decor probably. And then we have this giant machine. Now, this machine is honestly kind of weird. We have these 3 vats here, which probably hold some sort of liquid or maybe gas, but I don't know. Either way, we have these giant pipes that are connected to it. So it's definitely some form of liquid or gas, which, knowing this is a toy factory, it could be a number of different things. It could be part of the manufacture of the toys, like it could be plastic, it could be the poppy gel, it could be the poppy gas. But either way, this is definitely some sort of vat or container, and I do think this is going to be important. After all, why would they show this giant machine if it's not going to be important? And I'm sure we're going to find out exactly what this is in chapter 3. But if you look really closely at the bottom left, you can see what looks like a bunzo face. There's actually one on the right as well. there's 2 little bunzos. So I don't know if that's just part of the design of the machine or if there are toys hidden down there. But this also brings me on to a very interesting point that we haven't really talked about yet. And that is the idea that it looks like the main chapter 3 antagonist, the cat, can increase or decrease its size. It's hinted that it has the ability to stretch or grow. They did say they were considering using elastic plastic for this toy, but they changed their mind on it. But the idea that we saw this little one in this teaser and then we see this bigger one here, I think is all just evidence that this toy can grow and shrink, which could be interesting for the horror of this chapter. The idea that it can chase us through vents but then also be giant later on is kind of interesting. But not only did we get these new screenshots, but we also got a description for the chapter, and I think there's actually a bunch of clues in this description if you are smart enough to figure them out. So the description reads as follows: a decrepit orphanage known as Playcare sits beneath the once magical toy factory. You must make your way through this once haunted place, solving new puzzles and avoiding the nightmares that lurk within the dark. Answers lie between the bloodstained bedsheets and screaming echoes, if you can survive. This is Poppy Playtime's biggest and most terrifying chapter yet. More lies ahead than you might expect. New monsters await, and they're much more than just simple toys. Playcare is Playtime's own massive fantastical orphanage, and you get to explore it. The grab pack gets an upgrade. New hands permit new and creative ways to explore. A gas mask is the only way to safely explore through the red smoke that fills the air. Answers will finally be revealed, lies can only stay buried for so long. There is so much more to see, with further details coming very soon. Much awaits you in the chapter ahead. A bit of playtime never hurt anyone, right? Now, if you read this, there are a bunch of clues in here. First of all, the haunted place. Like I said earlier, I do think they are setting up this idea that this factory might actually be haunted. And screaming echoes, maybe echoes of the past, or maybe someone is still alive in this factory. We just really don't know at this point. But there's also a potential little cryptic clue in here. More lies ahead. Again, are we being lied to right now? Maybe lied to by Poppy? Go watch yesterday's video. More lies ahead could mean that there is more for us ahead, or it also could mean, again, there are more lies, which is something that is repeated down here. Lies can only stay buried for so long. But it's all starting to come together. New monsters await. Again, multiple enemies. They're much more than just simple toys. Playcare is Playtime's own massive, fantastical orphanage. Fantastical being a particularly interesting word. Sounds like something Stella would say, but it's also fantasy. Fantasy, Alice in Wonderland, maybe. You know, the idea that these toys aren't necessarily just cats or dogs. Some of them do look like animals, by the way. This one looks like a dog and a unicorn, but I think some of them are also fantastical, which makes sense. The grab pack gets an upgrade, we know. New hands, which is interesting because we know that we get the new purple hand, but this is hinting that maybe we get multiple new hands, which would also be very interesting. And then finally, we get solid confirmation that yes, we are using the gas mask. This is something that I theorized all the way back from the original trailer. We are going to be using a gas mask. We are going to need it for chapter 3. And then finally, we have further details coming very soon, which, like I say, this chapter is either coming out this month or next month, which means we are going to be getting a release date very, very soon. We have to at this point. They have what, a maximum of 8 weeks between now and the next chapter. So we will be getting a release date very, very soon. And as I've said many times, I will be playing it on the channel, I'll be doing a playthrough, I will be making theories. I am so excited to make a things you might have missed video because those are my favorite videos to make. And yeah, my one for chapter 1 and chapter 2 were really, really fun. So I cannot wait. I am almost better, by the way, so expect some more videos on the channel because I'm finally recovered. Just on that note, I got back-to-back sick twice. I got sick, I got nearly better, then I went out and I got sick again. So I've been sick for like a whole month. It's been awful, but anyway, I'm nearly better, so expect more content on the run up to chapter 3. I'm so excited. Oh, one thing I didn't talk about, the Poppy Playtime chapter 3 logo looks like an M. I don't know why they did this, but it looks like an M. It does also look like a claw, but it looks like a sideways M. I don't know if that's significant or if I'm just overly theorizing, but there you go. There's an M. Poppy Playtime chapter M. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. I've rambled enough. I'm going to go and edit this video and then go and sleep. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, give it a like. Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.